still say, those people definitely require business knowledge in order to function well in those areas. And finally, as would be expected, you can get a lot better reporting out of a system that contains everything in one place. And you get a lot more reliable reporting from those systems as well. So there's only one financial record, and we can report on that record rather than having, you know, a balance in collections and a balance in audit and a balance in returns and so on and so forth. Okay, so in terms of our delivery of FastRM, there have now been 24 successful implementations of our product at all levels of government, so national, state, provincial, and local governments. I guess in terms of tax processing, our largest site is the state of Illinois, with almost 16 million taxpayers. We have sites as small, however, as 200,000 taxpayers at the city and jurisdictional level. So in all of our implementations, we've done over 130 rollouts, each one of them having been on time and within their budget. And we like to say, at least we hope, that they're exceeding the customer expectations. And this is where I say, you know, don't believe me, it's good to go ask those folks what their experience was. The last kind of point there, which I think is always astounding to me, every day over 20,000 revenue officials, including our friends down in Trinidad, log on to Gentax to do their jobs. The system, if you add everybody up that it administers taxes for, that represents over 75 million accounts and over 750 different types of taxes across those implementations. So it would be challenging for anybody to say the system's not flexible with that many different types of accounts, types of taxes implemented. And those, by the way, are accounts and other things too, business licenses, so on and so forth. So I kind of have a thing for, I don't know what I did it again. I kind of have a thing for Steve Jobs, or had, perhaps. In one of his presentations, he kept saying over and over again, "It just works." I don't know if any of you remember seeing that particular presentation, but that struck a chord with me. It's really nice when you go to buy a product and you take it out of the box and it just works. You don't have to think too much about what you're doing in order to get started with it. And I like to, you know, my comparison here is that FastRM is a lot like that, in that when you start a project, the software just works, right? You can plug it in, install it on your servers, and start doing tax administration right away within that first week. Start deciding what things you want to change, what processes you want to implement. We don't have to wait for the fancy integration bus to show up. We don't have to wait for weeks and weeks for requirements to be developed before you even get to see the very start of what your system is going to look like. The converse side of that is, in the marketplace, you can also seed the software before you buy it. You can get a very good idea of what it's going to look like, and if it can actually perform the functions that you're going to do on an everyday basis.
Our credibility in terms of and experience started out in the late 90s, where we developed the first iteration of RMS, and we put that into the Cook Islands, into Samoa, and into Vanuatu. So the Cooks is probably about a population of around about 20,000. Samoa, a bit over 200,000. Vanuatu, again, about 250,000 people. That was the very first iteration of the software. They were coming pretty much completely from manual paper-based systems, and you put the system in for all their text types and all basically registrations, returns, payments, all the core transactional systems back then. It's now installed at a national level in 7 countries, primarily in the Pacific, but we've just won our first contract in Southern Africa, in Swaziland, and that's a multiple stage project, the first 2 of which are live now. During that time, we've never lost a client of OMS. The interesting point about that is the Cooks, Samoa and Vanuatu, we've redeveloped the software 3 times now. All have had support contracts for that coming up to 15 years, and we've all upgraded to the latest platform, OMS 7. So, I guess we like to keep people current with the software, and we've invested, as I say, 2 or 3 times rebuilding the whole platform. In the last 4 years is when we built the custom system as well, so it's a little bit newer. But that's what we're hearing from our clients. They were a little bit tired of being tied into the player that we remain nameless, and they demanded integration across in a single view of the taxpayer, not just for tax, but for customs. A lot of these nations that we deal with are very reliant on VAT or collections duty at the border, and whilst they're moving to a border-based tax system internally, it's still about the revenue at the border. So they wanted to see my VAT collections in there, and they want to see auditability in my VAT return from an inland revenue point of view. So that's what we set about to do. We've deliberately kept tax very separate today. We're doing customs tomorrow. So this is just the tax system that we will show you, but some of those core processes like your registrations, perhaps cashiering, can sit in, you can sort of centralise those processes. Your returns processing and perhaps your compliance, you keep separate, customs and tax. But there are some opportunities, because it's exactly the same piece of software and it's pretty easy to pick up, that you can actually have mobility of resources across your departments as well. Raymond here has been with the organisation for coming up to 13 years. The guy who, our chief architect Wayne Epsom, who designed the very first application coming up to 15 years ago, is still with us and has designed the 3rd iteration. We've got 4 or 5 people who